Take yourself off mute, Dr. Griggs.
So let's do that again. Good afternoon and welcome. I tell you, you talk about something that we don't want to talk about. Corny transition, we mute our conversations about important things like prostate cancer. If you want to shut down a barbershop, start bringing up prostate cancer, and people start looking at your hands. It's an important subject. Tonight we'll talk about prostate cancer. We have some of the most esteemed and qualified doctors in the country to talk about this thing that's been taboo for so long, and it's something that we as African-American men need to start discussing. Black men are 1.7 times more likely to be diagnosed with prostate cancer than our white counterparts. We're 2.1 times more likely to die from prostate cancer than white men. And I want you to think about your friend circle and your family. 1 in 6 Black men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer in their lifetime. And unlike a lot of the stuff that we were taught when we were in med school, that prostate cancer, it was one type and it might live longer than you, that's actually not the case. And we're going to explore that tonight. So with that, I'd like to get to our panel of esteemed doctors to have a frank conversation about something that affects us all. Yeah. I'd like to begin with Dr. Crawford and have each of them introduce themselves and give our audience your why.
Dr. Crawford. Well, I'm Keith Crawford from Prostate Health Education Network, and from Texas too. But I'm in Boston. Your key point was why. There are a lot of factors that are involved. It's multifactorial, meaning that there's a lot of different factors that come into play, from genetics, from diet, exercise. But the most important thing that we can do is recognize one thing, and I like to say it here so people hear it, that prostate cancer is a leading cause of cancer in Black men. Oh, I couldn't hear what you said.
I said, can you say that again for the people that are in the back?
So for everyone to know, if you hear it, you don't hear it. It's not alarming. So I say it. The leading cause of cancer for Black men is prostate cancer. And nobody says it that way. So people need to hear that. That's the first thing. If you detect prostate cancer early, it saves lives. It will save your life.
Thank you, Dr. Crawford. Profound statements to begin. Dr. Langford, can you introduce yourself and give us your why?
Well, my name is Dawood Langford. I'm a urologist here in the Bay Area, San Francisco, Oakland, Bay Area. And I treat prostate cancer every day. The why for me would be more so, you just told us the statistics. Men of African descent or Black men are more commonly diagnosed with prostate cancer. Also, the cancer that they're more commonly diagnosed with is more aggressive cancer, and they're more likely to die of prostate cancer. So it's incumbent upon us to learn how we can prevent death, how we can save our own lives, and also how we can educate our children and the people that come after us on how to sort of make, decrease these statistics or help us be less exposed to death and poor outcomes.
Thank you, Dr. Langford. So with that, I want us to jump right in. Let's have some hard, difficult conversations to see if we can start the conversation after this. And maybe in the barbershop, they won't put us out when they start bringing up underwear exams. What is the prostate? Can you tell our audience, what is the prostate? What's its purpose? There's a lot of word identification, but like the general public, can we explain what the prostate is?
I can take that on if Dr. Crawford does.
Go ahead. No, I'll let him take it on because you're the man that operates on it a lot.
But we're going to get your opinion as well.
Yeah.
Well, the prostate is a gland. It's a tissue or a gland structure that's in the pelvis. It's in between the urethra, which is the tube that we pee through, and the bladder, which is where we store urine. it contributes most of, or some of the fluid, not most of the fluid, but some of the fluid that we ejaculate in our ejaculate. Actually, the majority of the fluid comes from the seminal vesicles.
And just to add on the just so people get a visual on it, if you take a lemon and put it next to a walnut, you'll get a perspective on size. So we're thinking about the size of a walnut for the prostate, but just to get a visual in your head about the size of the organ, the size of the organ, size of the prostate.
So in that along that same line, thank you for that. I'd like to take it a step further for my sake, to simplify it. So you're telling me that you have the bladder, right? It's like a balloon. And the stem on the bladder is like the urethra, right? The prostate sits at the base of the bladder around the urethra, which is the tube that we release urine from, correct?
Right.
So, and I'm bringing that up for a reason. I don't get people's attention in the barbershop until I start saying, does anybody ever hear the sound? Boo-doo-doo-doo, doo-doo, doo-doo-doo-doo? Problems stopping and starting when they go to the bathroom. Can Dr. Langford, I'll start there, and then we'll go with Dr. Crawford. Why is that significant?
I'm not sure if you're a Buddha-doop is significant, but I think yeah, but I think the way that you get people engaged at the barbershop is talking about common things, difficulties urinating and sexual difficulties, and those are all involving or can be involved with the prostate. So I think difficulty urinating or having hesitancy, I think what you're describing is more intermittency is what we call it. Is an intermittent urine flow. And so an intermittent urine flow can be caused by benign prostate hypertrophy, or it can be caused by prostate cancer.
Right.
But it's kind of letting us know that there's something going on with the urination of that person.
But see, it's important to recognize, and I just want to dovetail on that, is you gave evidence of a physical sign of something going with your prostate. But the problem with prostate cancer, there's no physical signs when it starts.
Yeah. And you brought up something that not a lot of people are familiar with. What's the difference? You said benign prostatic hypertrophy, BPH, or prostate cancer. What's the difference?
Yeah, so the prostate is a gland, just like breast is a gland. People can have breast cancer, or you can have benign enlargement of the breast. Prostate can have prostate cancer. You can have benign enlargement of the prostate. Benign enlargement of the prostate is more common, commonly known. A lot of men have benign prostate enlargement, which causes some constriction on the tube that connects the bladder to the penis, which is the urethra. And so when that's compressed, or when that's constricted, or if that has a difficulty passing urine through it, you can have symptoms like you described. And I think that was great. Dr. Crawford mentioned that, most prostate cancer, you have no symptoms. And that's part of the challenge is, and we can talk about screening. I know you're going to get to screening, right?
Right.
But most of the time when you screen someone and they have no symptoms, and then they find out there's a number that's out of whack, it's very alarming. Yeah. Because, you say, I don't feel anything. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So let's get to why would I have what things can cause the prostate to be enlarged? You mentioned BPH. Why would a prostate what would cause that if it's not cancer?
I mean, if you look at it, we know a couple of things that can happen. Age is kind of the major reason why your prostate increases in size. So in the barbershop, you got two types of men. You're talking about old folks. They may be having the doop, but then young men, they just may be smooth. And so they may not have a problem at all. So what's important, you can have, it's just trauma, inflammation, growth, and it just happens. The majority of people with age, it's going to get larger. The majority of people with age will have some symptoms. But the problem is that that's the general population.
Right.
And let's just talk about Black men.
Now here we go. Let's talk about black men. And I'm going to hit you with a real hard one before we get to our stats and all that. Why don't we go to the doctor? Prostate, hypertension, the whole nine, especially when you start talking about prostates. Why won't we go to the doctor? Anyone?
Well, I think, it's a tough subject. No one knows why. I think that access to healthcare is an issue, right? So Black people have less access to healthcare, and that's being typically more majority underinsured. And I took some notes on this because I think this is an important area to talk about. But I think that being less likely to have insurance or be underinsured, and also having less access to healthcare, then that typically puts you at a disadvantage and makes it more difficult for you to actually go to see the doctor. So that would be my answer.
And then the dovetail on that is just face the fact. People, we are men, and men are people, and people are afraid.
Yeah.
They're afraid of what you're going to find. And at the end of the day, in your household, you can't afford to go down, but you don't want to think about going down because you're the gatekeeper of your home.
Yeah. And there's a certain school of thought when it comes to men and women and going to the doctor, in that I can speak personally for myself. As a child, as a boy, every time I went to the doctor, it was something uncomfortable or bad. I went because I broke a bone, I had an asthma attack, I was sick, I couldn't go on the field trip, I had an allergic reaction, I had to go 12 every week to get a shot, the whole nine. Then I started playing sports, and then they give you that physical, and they take that finger and they tell you to cough. You start the conversation with yourself then saying that, you know what, as soon as I get old enough, I ain't ever going to the doctor again. You wait and you put it off until about the age of 30 when things start to, I'll say, unravel. Our testosterone levels drop. Some of the things that we're genetically predisposed to and the things in our environment start to take effect. We hear terms like pre-diabetes, pre-hypertension. How about I'm never going to see you again? I'm not coming in. I feel fine. Same thing with that, which is what we were saying about prostate cancer. Well, age 40 hits and it's progressed because we're less active, we're more sedentary, we're more stressed because we're more responsibilities. We go to the doctor at 40 and 50, and now everything has removed the pre from it. You're hypertensive, you're a diabetic, your PSA number, which we'll get to, it's a little elevated. You say, that's good. What can I do? I'm going to change my lifestyle and I'll see you in 2 weeks. And we don't go. The next time we go to the doctor, unfortunately, a lot of times it's too late. As opposed to our female counterparts, when young ladies become young women, they start what they call wellness visits. And they talk about things, how's school? What are your goals? What are your aspirations? It might be uncomfortable, but it becomes a relationship or a bond. Well, we don't have that. By the time we hit 40s and 50s, it's like, wait, you want to put your finger, what? You want to do what? Oh, come on, man. I don't know you like that. And we don't go. And
but see, now, so that's a good point that you bring up, because you can see, you've said over and over again, the finger.
Let's get to
it. The point is, the finger, and I don't want to go, I was going to say the finger's a fallacy, but we won't use that. We'll just say, the point is that the prostate produces a protein that's found in the blood. Mm-hmm. And right now, the new guidelines, even the AUA guidelines that are coming out, have stated that you're first in the decision making. So now they put out a term. Everybody's talking about, you got to talk to your doctor, you got to play a role in your care. And at a minimum, if you're a Black man, you have to start talking with your doctor about prostate cancer, and you should get a PSA.
At what age?
PSA, age 40.
Age 40.
Age 40. I'm aggressive, age 40. And matter of fact, there are cases of men who develop prostate cancer in their 30s.
I actually have a friend that he is a prostate cancer patient right now, and I think he's 37.
See. So we have to, that dialogue is very important, but we have to begin somewhere, and we have to remove the concept of the finger, because that's no matter where you go throughout any community in the United States, the finger is the running joke that every man, every cartoon every community knows about the finger. And every man is like, I don't want to have that. So we don't have to worry about the finger if we just talk about just getting a simple blood test, a simple blood test.
A simple blood test. So I was about to say, let's have that conversation, because that's not done a lot of international work as well. That's an issue in every country that I've visited and worked in. There's something about the finger. So let's remove the finger from the conversation and talk about the importance of the prostate specific antigen, or PSA. Your recommendation is that you start having that conversation with your doctor at age 40. But what if you have a history of prostate cancer in your family?
That history, so the new guidelines, and Dr. Langford, if I'm wrong, just let me know. But these new guidelines, even from National Comprehensive Cancer Network, these are the people that produces the guidelines for cancer. AUA has come out with nice screening guidelines. If you are Black, if you have a family history, we're talking about some genetics in there. Mm-hmm. And then family history, Black family history, genetics. So if those two are in line, begin that discussion at age 40. And matter of fact, we start talking about this discussion. Like I said before, if you're in college or at church, that discussion needs to happen as early as possible.
And I would just add that, the AUA guidelines typically from the ages of 55 to 70, we screen for PSA. Mm-hmm. If you have a family history, meaning if you're of African descent or you have a family history of prostate cancer, then you would start earlier, 40 or so, or wherever you feel appropriate. So if you're even in your 30s and you want to start screening, I have some patients who have a very strong family history of prostate cancer. They start screening immediately as soon as they feel comfortable, as soon as they start having a primary care doctor and having control over their health. So
you mean Dr. Langford said something that's very important for everybody to hear: having control over your health.
That's exactly where I was going with it. So let's flesh that out a little bit more. Because what I'm hearing is that, wait, you mean the patient is can be the driver of their healthcare? Can I request a PSA because of my family history, even if I'm younger than age 40?
Yes, you can request anything. I mean, you are the. Sorry, I didn't mean to speak out of turn, but from my perspective, I feel the patient.
Man, it's a discussion. We're good. Let's talk. We're talking, man. We're talking. I would say we're at the barbershop, but I don't have no hair.
Well, I try to be a gentleman, but no. So, from my perspective, the patient is at the center. It's the focus of the healthcare. The whole healthcare delivery system. And so they come in as the consumer, as the focus, with their demands, with what they want. Now, you have to work with a physician who you can sort of discuss and kind of work with, that's going to help you get to your healthcare destination, of good health, of quality of health. But you are at the center of that, and you can demand and ask for anything that you desire.
So
people need to understand that the doctor is not God. The doctor is your consultant.
Can you say that again for some of our colleagues in the back sometimes?
All right. I'm saying it again. I'm saying doctors are not God.
Yeah.
They are your consultants.
Yeah. So with that said, I want to get back to, we're talking about specifically Black men. What are some of these underlying factors? I mean, those are scary numbers. 1 in 6 Black men, 2.1 times more likely. What are some of the factors that give African-American men a higher risk for prostate cancer? I know we talked about lack of access to care, but are there others?
I mean, we have the genetic predisposition, socioeconomic factors. There were some things that Dr. Langford talked about. Access to care. These are things that come into play. And you know what's so interesting? We skirt around the issue, and I'm just throwing it out there. We know racism is involved.
Yep.
And so
Absolutely.
I don't hang my hat and say, oh, this is all racism. But I said the point is racism is involved. And so all of these things play a role. You can talk about social determinants of health. Everybody, that's the new buzzword.
Yeah, and all that is community, your neighborhood, your environment.
I'm
that
talking
makes you,
about,
yeah,
yes.
yeah,
I'm talking
yeah,
about structural determinants of health.
yeah, structural determinants. Yes.
Determinants of health. But
So
that's, go ahead. Sorry.
no, go ahead. No, please.
No, I've just wanted, just the fact that it's interesting. It's hard to answer the question because all we can say is there's a lot of factors that involve. Why? Because there's not a lot of research out there about Black men.
Yeah.
And prostate cancer. So until we do the research, we can't even answer some of the questions that are out there.
Well, and that's an entirely another panel because we are, and rightfully so, we don't necessarily participate in clinical trials because of our history of our past, and again, being afraid and not understanding. Dr. Langford, as a practicing urologist, do you see evidence of that? I mean, all of the studies show that better outcomes are achieved when you have someone that looks like you and can identify with you. Is there a difference that you notice in your patients when they see you and they find out you're Black?
I'm not sure of that. I just want to answer a few other questions, just touch on a few topics before we move to that. And that's the underlying factors that contribute to these higher risk profiles for prostate cancer for Black people. And Dr. Crawford hit it on the nail: genetics, environmental factors. There has been, a lot of genetic studies, but nothing that's sort of a smoking gun. Right. Testosterone receptor. There's other genes associated with the BRCA, genetics as well, but nothing has been sort of crystallized as being a smoking gun. Also, environmental factors and lifestyle. Diet and exercise have been known to decrease your risk for prostate cancer. Eating a well-balanced antioxidant diet. They looked at lycopenes, looked at vitamin E. All of these are factors that we discuss, and they can contribute to a healthy lifestyle and help you prevent prostate cancer. Also, exercising, working out, and diet high in fruits and vegetables. Now, moving to that, there's a lot of data that shows that having a usual primary care provider.
Before you move to that, you use some terms that I don't think the average viewer would understand. Where can you find lycopene? After you with lycopene and what foods?
Your tomato paste, tomatoes that are cooked well done. So there's another thing too is it's not the fresh, because the fresh tomatoes have something on the outer surface called lectins. And so, but if you cook tomatoes, tomato paste, that type of stuff, and Dr. Langford hit the nail on the head. That exercise, the diet, Mediterranean diet, to a certain extent, more plant-based diet. And one of the things that has come out is vitamin D. And since Black folks, we're not out in the sun anymore. So we really have to supplement with vitamin D.
Now, when we supplement, other than supplements, what foods do you recommend?
Also, coffee. Coffee has been known to be associated with low risk for prostate cancer.
Okay.
So, what foods?
Yeah, vitamin D. Let's talk to them. What do people need to eat to get the lycopene and the vitamin D and the being outside, of course? But what are you recommending?
Well, there's issues that come up. Black folks start to have a high incidence of lactose intolerance as they get older. So a lot of people are not adjusting their calcium. So if they can get some fortified foods that are fortified with calcium, the vitamin D, you're really going to have to just supplement, because the majority of Black people are vitamin D deficient, especially as you go to the north and especially as you get older. And I push on my end. I'm at that level where I'm as close to like a plant-based diet as possible.
Yeah.
I'm, salmon, fish, and then where you get your food from. But then that's a problem, because it's in the Black community, there's a lot of food deserts out there.
Which means that there might be corner stores and there might be gas stations, but there's no healthy food option in those places. So when we talk about supplementation with vitamin D, is it just vitamin D, or are we talking about vitamin D3, or Is there a specific one?
So you raise a very important one. Vitamin D3, and not only they're starting to pull data together about vitamin D3 and cancer, but there was a published report for how vitamin D impacts our immune system. And with COVID, there was a report that came out of the Veterans Office, that the VA, where they demonstrated that Black men needed to take vitamin D, and it protected them, had a protective effects against COVID. So vitamin D plays a role, but remember that when you read about vitamin D and supplementation, there is the general population, which we're not part of,
right?
And the concentration of vitamin D that we need to have may be significantly higher, somewhere around 28 units, international units per pound body weight. So,
which is what you can talk to your doctor about when you go to your primary care doctor and you start to read labels. Go over how to read the labels. Specifically on your vitamin labels, on your foods in general, but on your vitamins, because they're not necessarily regulated. Your higher qualities tend to have more of what they advertise. So you want to be careful, have a conversation with your doctors. Dr. Langford, you were moving to another topic, and I just wanted to put a pause there so people can follow us. But please.
Great. No, that was great. I was actually going to ask a question to the panel, and I was wondering, do you think that Black people of African descent or Black people have been under supplemented with vitamin D over these?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
1,000%.
absolutely.
1,000%. Especially with COVID lately, everyone went in the house. And with it being as hot in New Orleans today, I think the heat index was like 113 or something ridiculous. Like your glasses melt to your face. Like
I was gonna take you to San Antonio and say you don't even go outside. It's just like I said Black folks are back in San Antonio, vampires. We come out at dark. I said, shoot, it's hot. But I know New Orleans heat with that humidity. Ooh.
Man, look, it's an entity and a beast in and of itself. The dogs, if you try to let the dogs out to go outside, they're like, "Nah, I'm good. I'll wait."
I'm good. I'm gonna sit right here with you and look. It's like
you don't have a newspaper or something.
It's cool in here. I love it.
Well, I mean, I hate to boast, but I tell you, the Bay Area's got a nice temperate climate.
See how you got it wrong.
You might have cut his mic and turn off his camera. Dr. Crawford. Anyway,
I said he's over here talking about, and he's like, they should come out here. I said, we got blue skies.
Oh yeah, they're bragging, got a beach and all that other stuff. Show off. You fancy, huh? So I want getting back. You see how light this conversation is, and we want people to see that. First of all, doctors are people too. We're all people. We're Black men. We're Black people. We have the same concerns that everyone else has. We just went and studied a lot of stuff so that we can try to help. So having these conversations, when you're playing the spades, when you're playing the dominoes, people can show this panel, this video. This is an amazing day, but they can specifically show this. And I think all of us on this panel have gotten a thick skin. We get ribbed every time. Oh, here they come. I don't want to talk about that. Look, I don't want to hear about it. You don't want to talk about it until it's time. Dr. Langford, can I ask, what is the youngest patient that you've had with prostate cancer?
With prostate cancer, I've had patients in their early 40s with prostate cancer. In fact, I had two friends grew up in the same area, and they both ended up being diagnosed with prostate cancer within a year of one another. One was 43, the other was 44.
Did they have a family history at all?
So one of the patients did have a family history, and the other did not or wasn't sure. A lot of us are not sure of our family histories. Some didn't grow up with their fathers, or maybe
and if they did, they don't talk about it. They're not going to talk about it.
Right.
It's just natural causes.
Exactly.
One of the things that I suggest to people is for men is that they start going to the doctor with their sons as little boys, because as you can see, it was very traumatizing, man. getting stuck with a needle every week. They're breaking a bone. You can't do this. But what happens is it can start the tradition of going to the doctor together. And when I speak here, I tell people to do it in football season. Like we're all gonna get ready for the season. You know, I'm a Who Dat Saints fan, and they will give you a heart attack. You really need to get checked out before the season starts, which coincides with the time that kids go to school. But the important part is if you start the habit with your son going to the doctor together as you age and get older, and he goes with you, you know, it becomes you have someone in the room with you. How many times as Black men do we go to the doctor, we hear bad news, and we go home, how did everything go? Fine. You want me to go with you? No. But it becomes less intimidating because, you know, you might have your dad, your uncle, your friend with you. And over time, it flips. Whenever there's a diagnosis, there's not that feeling of isolation. You
made a statement that I want to interrupt for a second. So
yes,
getting ready to go back to school is a good time because you can also tell them that Prostate Cancer Awareness Month is in September. Found it. And the average person doesn't even know. They can tell you when breast cancer is.
Sure will. They tell you put on that pink.
They put on a pink, but there ain't no blue sock around.
No blue sock around. No blue sock around.
Right.
Nope. So I want to dig a little bit, so our, you know, we're family, and I want our viewers to know us. Dr. Crawford, can you tell us about the Prostate Health Education Network and resources and stuff you have? And then, Dr. Langford, I want you to really talk about what moved you to go into urology and what it is that you do. Dr. Crawford.
Okay. So first, prostate cancer, FIN, was founded, Prostate Health Education Network was founded by Tom Farrington. Tom Farrington is a survivor. Tom Farrington is a Black man. Tom Farrington, his background, the things that you don't hear is one of these role models, the unspoken role models, the first Black man to establish a computer company in the 70s. In the 70s, late 60s, 70s, international.
Wow.
And in 2003, in 2000, he developed prostate cancer. His grandfather and his father developed prostate cancer. He buried his father, and then the next week, he gets diagnosed with prostate cancer.
Wow.
But what he did was different. He was more, had an engineering training. So his background was, let me go take a look and try to figure this out. And so from there, he made decisions working with his doctor. But the problem is when he went to he traveled from Boston to Atlanta to get his care because he found out that there was some cutting edge technology that existed there that he wanted to have access to. And he found that men of all ethnic groups didn't have any support, didn't know what to do. And men have a right to be scared.
Yes.
So we're not supposed to be scared. That's why you said you went home. Who you gonna tell? You can't tell somebody else. It said you're supposed to be the Rock. How the Rock gonna be scared? So what he did he wrote a book. And then from the book, he developed Prostate Health Education Network, which is 20 years organization, a Black organization. And he's a 23-year prostate cancer survivor. So that's where the organization, and it's different. We're different than other groups, and we're kind of classified as an outlier because our approach is different. We, there's something called upstream problem.
Yeah.
Okay, I think what's his Dan Heath or something like that wrote a book about, there was a minister I heard also said I said, well, are we going to spend our time looking at the creek and all these babies are coming down the creek? We're rushing down, taking care of the problem right now. We want to go upstream.
Yeah.
And to go upstream requires us to identify what the problem is. And the problem is education, early detection screening, early detection screening, early detection screening.
What is it? Is it early detection screening?
Early detection screening.
Yeah.
That's it. Along with that blood test. But see, now you're upstream, you educate. Then the objective is to create tools. So people have to recognize that one, you're not out there by yourself. And so we create tools. We create, and we kind of keep everything simple. Keep the prefix the same, the front portion of the website the same, FIN, and then PSA for early detection screening. And then we break it down so it's easy to use. And then the next one is treatment options. So FIN path is the treatment pathways. So Thomas Farrington, as I mentioned before, not only is he on the board of the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, but he also sits on the panel of National Comprehensive Cancer Network. See, lobbies inside the organization to make sure early detection, that Black issues are being brought up inside. So now we create a tool for treatment options that's validated, verified by the National Comprehensive Cancer Network. Then recognizing that there's a problem when it comes to participating in clinical trials, we created a tool in 2017 that basically all the clinical trials that are prostate cancer clinical trials that are actively recruiting, because we know that there is a deficit in Black men participating. No, let me rephrase that. There's a deficit in Black folks participating in clinical trials across the board. Then we go to prostate cancer, and we make up 12 to 14% of the population, but maybe 3 to 4% of those participate in clinical trials. So we created a tool, which our group, my group, we go through, and each time a new clinical trial is launched, we curate it, we make sure it is, and then we put it into a diagnostic bucket. And so that we recognize that in treatment options are have their own treatment category. Have the diagnostic category, and then the treatments that are available for that person's diagnosis. So if you're low risk, intermediate risk, high risk, if you have regional disease or metastatic disease, all these treatment options are dropped into that bucket. Now that's FinPath. So now and Dr. Lanford, I want to ask you a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Men who are diagnosed with prostate cancer, when you tell them they have prostate cancer, they come back weeks later to find out what the treatment options are, or do you start talking about the treatment options immediately?
So essentially tell them the treatment options at the time and later. I usually schedule about 2 to 3 visits. First visit is to discuss the diagnosis and to sort of contextualize their diagnosis. What I mean to say is that I use their age, their risk stratification area, high, low, intermediate.
Right.
And I kind of describe that to them so they can understand what their risks of death are or issues with their quality of life. Those quality of life factors are sexual function and urinary function. So that's the first discussion. Discussions about your risk, where you sit in your risk, and then the risk to your quality of life and to your actual life.
And so you see that point you just brought up right there. Then we recognize that, and we create a pamphlet. We don't go to Dr. Google, because you don't want patients going to Dr. Google after they have their discussion with you. So we give either a pamphlet that they can read that supports all that information that they went over, because the majority of it was like Charlie Brown, wow. So, but at least they have that resource. They can go online, and then when they come back, they can have that consulting relationship with you, that shared decision-making relationship. And then that's the same thing we do with clinical trials, because clinical trials are part of your treatment options. So that kind of gives you an idea of and what we create the tools, but church to church, communities. I've had a busy 8 weeks because I've been traveling, and we host free screening. I was just in Virginia, and a week before we were in North Carolina. And so we are very aggressive. That's why I said we don't walk. We're not walking. We don't do a lot of walking.
And I just want to mention one thing. Don't mean to interrupt you, Dr. Crawford, but I think this is great. And some of the data shows, there was a meta-analysis done where they talked about these, specifically with African Americans, better materials to discuss the diagnosis helps in treatment, in both them being more adherent to the treatments and also helping them to understand and to decide for treatments. And so also the biomarkers, when we talk about PSA screening, additional biomarkers and the discussion of what those biomarkers mean and how
so
they
that's
relate.
and that's exactly what we do. We kind of Hansel and Gretel people. We give them a newsletter. We do websites. We do web presentations about it. We bring in people like you. So now I know you. So now you can participate in what we consider to be clinical trial investigative sites. So it's learning sessions. So the doc knows what the patient's expectations are, and the patient understands what the doctor's expectations are. And then the last thing I wanted to say was our biggest event was a tri-state event. We reached about 10 million people. So we linked New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania together. We had political leaders, religious leaders, federal and state leaders, and also had the president of one of the of Pfizer giving out. So a pharmaceutical companies coming out and talking about the importance of early detection screening. So we're very aggressive at making contact, boots on the ground, door to door, church to church, community to community. That's the way we roll.
So what you've described, first of all, what's interesting about that is my mom's side of the family is from North Carolina. My dad's side is from Virginia. So you more than got my attention when you said that. But the big thing is, this is an example, folks, of what upstream problem solving looks like. Education. We can talk about screening, but education, so you can know the right questions, understand in terms that you understand. They call it health literacy. And a lot of people can do word identification. Oh, prostate cancer. But then when you ask the hard question, what's a prostate? They're like, it's the thing that does the thing. Then, that's what you get, right? It's the thing.
They know the thing.
They do the test and the finger thing. Yeah, but doc, you know what I'm saying? Which means you really don't know. Which is fine, and that will because what we want is the upstream solution is to meet you there and empower you and give the information away, and that's what we try to encourage people. Ask all the hard questions in terms that you understand, so you can go out and be the messenger, the herald in the barbershop or the church. One important thing that we left out, and I have to ask, what is the website for this amazing upstream solution? What is Finn's website? Everything you described, can you say it for our?
So we kind of keep it simple. So one, Prostate Health Education Network is long, but you can remember rap cancer. So that's just like rap cancer. So, and then we keep everything simple. Phen, PHEN, PSA.com. That's for early detection screening. Now, once Dr. Langford gives you that diagnosis, he's giving you your pep talk about what's coming down the pipeline. Then we created Phen Path, PHEN, PATH.com. Then when you come back and you have that sit down discussion and you talk with them, is there opportunities to participate in a clinical trial? We already curated all the clinical trials that fall into your diagnostic category that Dr. Langford has already spoken to you about before. So it's a one-stop shop. And then if all else fails, you can pick up the phone and call me, and I'll help you navigate through all of that.
There we go. Upstream solutions. You are not alone. Dr. Langford, we have a few minutes left. I want to talk about, a lot of people are afraid of the treatments. Are there new advances in treatments? A lot of guys, I'm just going to be frank, they're worried they won't be able to perform afterwards. Are there new treatments out there?
Well, I think that, essentially I divide the treatments into three options. And one of them is not really a treatment. There's active surveillance. This all is based on your disease category and your risk factor. What risk are you when you're diagnosed? And so one treatment is active surveillance, where we monitor the disease and we selectively treat when the disease progresses. The second treatment is a radical prostatectomy or some sort of treatment to the prostate that's surgical. So radical prostatectomy is a very tried and true procedure where the prostate is removed. Now, we do have newer forms of treatment that use different energies to treat areas of the prostate. But these are experimental at the current moment. There is not long-term data. For a radical prostatectomy, for active surveillance and radiation, there is over 20 to 30 years worth of data where we know that there's very good survival. However, with the newer forms of treatment, where there's just treatment to part of the prostate with different sort of energies that only selectively surgically treat part of the prostate, that is experimental, but those are new. And then the last form of treatment is radiation. And there's a lot of different forms of radiation as well. There's seeds that could be placed in the prostate, and there's external radiation that comes from outside and is focused onto the prostate. Those are sort of more of the tried and true forms of treatment for the prostate. And so those are essentially our options. Surgery to the prostate, active surveillance, watching the prostate, and waiting for selective intervention when cancer progresses, and then radiation to the prostate.
Wow, thank
Dr. Langford, do you do robotic surgery?
Yes, sir. Yes, robotic surgery is the use of a robot to remove the prostate. We do robotic surgery.
So we only have a couple of minutes, and when you're doing public speaking, I find that it's the rule of ease. We engage our audience, we empower our audience with education, and most importantly, we try to finish early, so they'll want more, but we want to leave on the up. And what I'm hearing and feeling is hope. The fact that you're not alone, that there is a resource network. There are amazing and talented doctors like Dr. Langford, who, by the way, I'm a little biased to community medicine, has an MPH. He understands public health, so he understands the major implication of this. So we know that there are treatments out there. We know they work. And before we leave, we have 1 minute. Can we please, both of you, please share the statistic, the survival rate in African-American men if caught early?
5-year
and treated.
5-year survival rate?
5-year survival rate.
10-year survival rate? You want to touch that? You want to touch that? Because 10-year
survival
let's do
rate,
it.
They're way in the back now. They need to hear.
It said 10-year survival rate, if found locally, above 96%. This is data now. This is not data that come from Dr. Google. This is CDC data. Okay? NCI data. So the importance, and that's why early detection screening is so important. So important.
Yep.
Dr. Langford, any last words? Thank you. Dr. Langford, any last words?
No, thank you. I think I'm really interested and hopefully we can engage as a community. We can continue to go back and forth. We can support each other, and we can provide resources so that people can get information and education about diseases that affect our community. Feel free to look us. I'm with my practice is called UroHealth, www.uro-health.com. Also work with an organization called the African American Wellness Project. That's aawellnessproject.org. And so we want to be available for anybody that needs us.
So you inviting us out there?
I heard Andy. You want to brag about sitting on the beach? He ain't going to invite nobody. What is that?
Especially in August. Especially in August. We gonna roll.
Well, you guys heard about San Francisco. It ain't that great.
Listen.
That's not what he was saying a minute ago, right? So, folks, hold on. Before he started crawfishing, and I said crawfishing because I'm in New Orleans, we're going to say thank you. We encourage you to reach out to our doctors. And Dr. Crawford, please use him and drag him around the country, and let's do something in New Orleans so he can and work together.
We can come down because I haven't had any gumbo in a long time. I need some.
We got it.
Now you're talking my talk now.
So now you want to invite us? All right,
that's right.
So now, we got gumbo. We can come to the beach, Dr. Crawford.
That's right. We'll bring the pot. We'll bring the pot. I'll bring some ribs too.
That sounds like a party about prostate health. We're putting this show on the road, folks. We hope, if nothing else, we hope that you learned one thing. If there's one thing that you learned, is that you're not alone. The resources, these two amazing men on this panel, are here for you. There's resources and network. You know where to find me. I'm here with Dr. Get Check, Get Fit, Get Moving. We want to thank you and encourage you to reach out. Doc, if you could say your website one more time, Dr. Crawford and Dr. Langford.
Rapcancer.org is just the short. Then you remember PHIN.PSA.com, early detection screening. PHIN, PHEN.PATH.com is the treatment options that are available, and PHINtrials.com if you're looking for a clinical trial to participate in.
And Doctor, even though you're acting funny, and I'm gonna give you some gumbo, but I'm gonna let you say your website too, please.
Oh man, you guys are a tough crowd. My website it's actually www.euro-health.com. That's www.
I'm gonna bring some red velvet and peach cobbler. You keep on messing with me.
It's about to go down, man. We got to put some lycopene in there somewhere. We'll find some lycopene or something. Folks, we want to thank you all.
Some Heinz ketchup.
We're supposed to go vegan, man. We're supposed to go vegan.
Right. Well,
not in San Francisco. Not in San Francisco.
So folks, I want to thank y'all for joining. We hope that you enjoyed this as much as we did. And as you can see now, this conversation will continue because I know that I can beat both of these dudes in some dominoes. So we'll see y'all, and we hope you enjoy it.
No.
Thank you.